Hey everybody, I am back with season 3 of My Hero Academia spoiler review. I took a bit of a break as, by the time I got started watching the season, it was getting close to getting into November, and I figured, okay, I best set this aside while I was covering a lot of movies for the holidays, and I needed the time to focus on that. But now we're in the new year, so now that frees up some time so I can now get back into binge watching some shows. We're going through all up until season 7 of My Hero Academia. After that, I have at least an idea of what other anime I want to, start binge watching through between each season. But anyway, yeah, before I continue, because I have a lot to say, but before I do, please follow me in the links in the description below, like my YouTube and my Patreon. If you want to become a Patreon member, follow me on my Twitch channel and Twitter. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get right to it. So the next step with Class 1A, because there's a little three tier kind of arcs that we're going through. One of which is not really my favorite personally. I wouldn't say it's like a waste of time, but personally, it's kind of a groaner of an arc. And we all have that kind of thing in certain anime. Like, certain arcs is kind of like bottom tier for somebody, depending on your how you view it. Here, the Class 1A, led by Azawa, go to the woods because they figure, okay, our normal training and classes for these students that keep getting interrupted by the League of Villains. So we'll keep things on hush hush. Take the next set of training somewhere on the outskirts where like nobody should be able to know where they are, so they can actually get some stuff done. Lo and behold, they show up anyway, which is like leads the pro heroes to wonder there got to be a leak somewhere in their organization because nobody should have been able to know where they was taking those kids. But before I even get into all that, there's a little kid Kota they meet there at the training camp, where these three cat superhero type people, oh no, it's like four of them, isn't it? I can't remember. It's like at least two or three cat women and then one cat guy watching over them and training them. And little Kota, got a chip on his shoulder because this is why I really don't care for this season. He'd probably be the main reason, to be perfectly honest. Sorry for those who like the kid, but in all honesty, he was kind of annoying, annoying little brat, which I know is the purpose of his character, but it just seems like he kind of drags just to give Midoriya something like, not something to do, but it's like that gumption to fight on when things get hectic or whatever. It's like the kid annoyed me, but he had a chip on his shoulder about superheroes because his parents died in an attack by a super villain who ends up ironically showing up and attacking Midoriya, this guy who utilizes muscle fibers to increase his super strength. He's just like a big walking bully, pretty much. And uh, and of course he's a little kid. It's no different from like the whole Bruce Wayne situation, but the kid was like, kind of, you know, took that out on pro heroes in general because he lost his parents in a fight. It's like, kid, you clearly knew what your parents' job was, and I guess the parents never really sat down with that kid to explain. I guess he was too young to understand that. So obviously that's why they probably wouldn't get that talk with him. But it's like no different from like a fireman or a police officer having to have a chat with their kid to explain like my job is dangerous and there's all likelihood, definitely a likelihood I'll get hurt, but even a greater risk of me potentially dying. We don't have to put in those exact words, but prepare your kid in some aspect, whatever age level that they are, can explain them the way for them to understand so it can digest it better. So they can be at least mentally prepared, or at least somewhat prepared. You never really be prepared to losing a parent at that age, but I'm just saying the kid is like, nah, he ain't pro heroes. Y'all can, nah. That's like, shut up, you little brat. I'm sorry, the kid bugs me. Anyway, the League of Villains show up, and we see these new players. Um, Twice, Toga. I keep blanking on that crazy girl's name with the blood thing, the blood powers that she can transform into other people to gain a blood. People upset, people love that character because she's just like kind of crazy but hot. And she got like a thing for obsession with Midoriya. But then you got this magician guy, Compress, and you know, and the burn victim guy. That's like, I know who he is because I'm rewatching these seasons so I can do reviews for the channel. I know who he is, but I'm not gonna spoil that here. But the burn victim guy, I'm blanking on his name, but you know who I'm talking about, who has fire capabilities, and he's pretty much leading the charge, and they're after Bakugo because Bakugo, given how he acted at the sports festival, the League of Villains think like, oh, they can easily convert him because the way his attitude has been, people like that kid that Midoriya fought in the sports festival, that certain people with powers or just certain behaviors, people can easily be misled to think that, oh, he's primed to be a villain given their powers or how they appear. Same thing with like Gang Orca, the pro hero, that in this season he made a comment about, or at least somebody made a comment about when he was young, people assumed he would probably be like a villain given his appearance or something. But no, it's like looks can be deceiving. Don't like judge a book by their cover kind of situation. Doesn't mean just because somebody has a powers to mind control somebody doesn't automatically mean that they gonna easily abuse that and become a villain. That can lead to a lot of misunderstandings and mishaps. But I love the look of Gang Orca, in all honesty, with that whole 3-piece suit kind of thing, or at least the tailored suit. He looked like he leads like a Yakuza or something like that. We got these little henchmen working for him, but he's like a pro hero. But he's actually dope looking. So yeah, I just got to mention that before I end up forgetting. But anyway, at this point, Midoriya still hasn't got a hang on controlling his powers, and if he goes too hard, it will break. That's why he has to try to spread it out evenly throughout his body, so that way it can prevent any other mishaps. But given the fact that he's fighting this muscle fiber guy, he had to go hard. But as a result, he broke both of his arms, pretty severely. And Eraser had pointed out that he's running on pure adrenaline at this point. As soon as things calm down, he's gonna be conked out quickly. But they all trying to, they all spread thin, so they each had to deal with certain villains, like this one kid who literally has a freaking not six shooter, but like a pistol, because he has like a gas powers, like kind of like a miasma or something like that that knocks people out. He's even wearing like a school uniform, but the kid with not it's kind of like Harding uh powers like the other kid had, but it's more rocky. This one is all steel. Him and another classmate that can grow her hands stop this guy, and Bakugo and others, even like a wild, crazy Dark Shadow stops this gimp suited dude with crazy braces or something like that, knocked him out. Which that part was kind of dope. Uh, uh, and I gotta point out, because everybody really like follows Midoriya, because I guess he has that Shonen Jump main character syndrome, where like maybe it's like needs to be in like a separate video or something, but there's like a thing with maybe I could put on my TikTok or something. I don't know, but it's something that, like a brings to mind. You know how like the whole main character syndrome. This should be a thing like a Shoto, like a Shonen Jump syndrome. Whereas like like Naruto or Goku or Luffy, whereas like I know it's like a thing, but it's just like almost cliche to the point where he has that spunky attitude, and he's charming, he's friendly, and he has that willpower to push through and inspires everybody, and then everybody just kind of rallies around him. Sure, realistically there are people like that, but it's just like, okay, like you can be like friends with him or something like that, but everybody seems so inspired by Midoriya, like and when they in their own little personal, which My Hero Academia does an incredible job really showcasing everybody and not just hyper focus on the main character and his rival like most anime typically do. But everybody, like when they, like, I don't know, let's take crap, I'm blanking on a lot of people's names. This is the guy with the tail, for example. Let's just say like he has his own little thing, and he's struggling, and he just remembers about what Midoriya did and stuff, and like how he pushed through, and like I gotta be like Midoriya. And it's like, look, you can be inspired by like whoever you want to be inspired by. I ain't knocking you for that, but God, they treat the Shonen Jump characters like they freaking Jesus, and it's kind of like I don't know what the word to put it is, but it's kind of like, it's like this guy don't walk on water, people. Like come, like you got literally nobody else that you can be inspired by. Very rarely they like, oh man, the way that like Gang Orca did inspires me to really lead the charge and stuff like that. Or man, the way Ingenium did this, I gotta go all plus ultra and something like that. It's like, no, most of the time it's like flashback Midoriya, yeah, or even if it's not Midoriya or it's All Might, it's either one of the two. Very rarely you see somebody get inspired by somebody else's actions. But I just thought I'd bring this up because it's like most shonen anime has the same thing. They did that heavily with Naruto, and they done, they see like things happen like that with One Piece and definitely in Dragon Ball. I just thought personally kind of like cringe and borderline annoying, personally. But anyway, getting off tangent here. So, they try to go after Bakugo, but they also end up kidnapping Tsukuyomi, the guy with Dark Shadow, thanks to Compress. And of course, I know Midoriya, you know, sees Bakugo as like a friend, and of course you want to make sure you save him, but you treat, in my personal opinion, Midoriya treats Bakugo like, he's like your Raka or something like that. It's like, dude's an asshole to you, has been a bully. Sure, you can have that kind of spirit, that good natured spirit where you can look past that, but even with something like I know it's two different people, but like Naruto, he can still go out and save people that bullied him, but he's not going to sit there and let it slide either. You know what I mean? He will still give them shit about as much as they give him. So he gives it back as the same way that it was given. I know, Midoriya ain't like Naruto, but I'm just pointing out like a good example uh, of like a main character being bullied by somebody, and Midoriya is way too, like, I'm sure it's rare cases he does, bite back, but it's just like, I don't know. It seems like you treat him like he's so special. It's like, gotta get him back, and it's like I don't know. I'm trying to like articulate it as best as I can, but it just seems like you're going all out for somebody, which, yeah, you should, but don't treat it like you're saving your best girl or you're trying to save your father or something like that. Because it's that same, like, if you try to rescue your father, he get, like, if you, imagine you trying to save your father from some kind of gang of hoodlums, and you're going all out and like, damn all anything else, or even your own body if it's weak or something like that. That's that kind of energy he's put into somebody who's been like a bully that's not even related to him. That's that energy he's put into it, and those two are not one to one. Sure, you fight as hard, but like, yeah, I'm going to get after him. Yeah, it's just like, dude, like, calm down. Like, yes, go save him, but like, it's not like you're saving your parent here. Anyway, despite the catastrophe and some people getting injured, one of the cat people gets, seriously injured, and another gets kidnapped, which they end up rescuing, but because went through some kind of hell. They managed to save Tsukiyomi, but Bakugo ends up getting kidnapped, and of course, Midoriya gets really upset about that, and like I said, he giving that kind of energy like he's trying to save his mom, and it's like those things are like that energy. You're taking the energy way too high, and it's at 100%. Like he's like blinded by saving him, but it's like at best it should be like 75%. That's the way I can probably best articulate it. Like those energy scopes like don't align. Anyway, so Midoriya's recuperating. So Red Riot, I go with his superhero name. Red Riot is like all gun ho about saving Bakugo, because him and the electricity guy, they kind of formed some type of friendship between Bakugo, despite his attitude, because they kind of like a blunt instrument type of people. They don't really like think or strategize like that. But they form like a relative friend group, even though they consider to be friends with Bakugo, and Bakugo is like, don't even give a crap, but he just lets them hang out. But he's very passionate. So despite class rep, mentioning that it's, not necessary, because let the pro heroes handle it, because the creation girl managed to get a tracker on one of the Nomus that was there as well, so that way All Might and the other pro heroes can actually easily track down where their hideout is. So Midoriya, when he's well enough to move, him, Shoto, Red Riot, Ingenium, who reluctantly comes along just to make sure they don't jump into the fray. I think that's it. They all go, and there's a funny moment when they try to get disguises, and you see Midoriya trying to look like a weird hoodlum's like, oh yeah, go get some, yeah. I was like, that part I got a big laugh out of. I know the voice actor probably had a ball with that part, but anyway, so they managed to track down where the hideout is, and of course they try to recruit Bakugo. Bakugo ain't trying to hear none of that shit because despite his attitude, he looks up to All Might and he still aims to be a pro hero. So he ain't trying to listen to none of that nonsense. But they end up getting warped by All For One, who's the main bad guy in this series, who's the arch enemy to All Might, who has the power of One For All. Gran Torino and All Might shows up and try to duke it out with the All For One. Given as he's trying to get everybody else to escape along with Bakugo, the other kids manage to work in tandem with each other because they can't stay and fight because it's way too dangerous for that. And they're not allowed to, per the rules, because they're still in training. But they didn't. They can't engage, but it doesn't mean they can't swoop in to rescue anybody. So they managed to, thanks to quick thinking with Midoriya, saying that Red Riot has to be the one to get Bakugo to come along with them, because if anybody else try to call out to him, he's not going to listen. And they know him well enough that it's true. So, as they collaborated and hopped through, Red Riot managed to get a hold of Bakugo, and they managed to dip off and rescue him, giving All Might the chance to go through one of the best fights in anime, best design. The art went nuts, because usually they have those downtime when the quirky little animations and stuff like that. Here you get every once in a while, especially in this moment, you get these dynamic art styles to show this is freaking serious and going all out with this crazy powers, because All For One has all these stockpile of powers that he accumulated over so many years, because he is essentially nigh immortal. Okay, he's been around since the early years of when quirks start to manifest. That's how long he's been. Around. So he sheds light on Shigaraki, that he is the grandson of All Might's mentor, who was the previous holder to All For One before All Might was. And this really puts All Might out of sorts, because he was literally fighting this kid, not realizing he was beating up his mentor's own blood. And it comes as a shock. And it's kind of a real sick way for a villain to pull. It's he managed to track down, and the kid's backstory is kind of intense. Holy crap. But we'll get to that when that time comes, because I think it's at least if not next season, the season after that, where we kind of shed light on his kind of backstory. But All for One tracked this guy down, this little kid, mentors him. I hate to use this word, but it kind of fits in this kind of case. Groomed the kid to be his. It's kind of like a dark parallel to Midoriya. To mold him to be like his successor. Despite his nigh immortality, he still has to run on this kind of apparatus around his face. It's like it's not perfect, so he still needs some type of legacy to carry on in his image, essentially. And because he's going all out, it forces All Might to go past his limit. Now, because there's news helicopters roaming around, he's pretty much broadcasting to the world that All Might is out of power. He is not the symbol of peace as you think he is. He is now depowered. And so taking away like your image that you built up. But that still didn't work. There's still people hyping All Might up. They don't care how he looked. He's still All Might to them. And he's still cheering him on to fight on, as well as Midoriya and the others, while other students are at home who did not come around. All Might still carrying some embers of All for One, One for All, and decides to shift the power from one end of his body to the other, giving him the edge to knock the hell out of All for One with the United States of Smash. And he gives everybody like that fist pump and cheering everybody, everybody's cheering him on and inspiring them to keep fighting on. But it's kind of, and then eventually kind of Baku kind of picks up on the fact that, because he's not stupid. I mean, it took him a while, but he kind of put two and two together. Like, All Might gave you his power. That's why, you was quirkless before, but somehow when you got powers, it's similar to All Might for some strange reason. Then the next arc, while people were recuperating, there's another kind of a big test area where we meet other students from schools from further east of Tokyo. They come in and pretty much like learning at least two courses. First one is they gotta tag the other students from different classes with these little target things on their person, and to allow them go into selected slots, which they all end up doing. And you end up meeting one guy with wind powers who has a grudge against Shoto and his dad because Shoto was still at the time had like a chip on his shoulder before Midoriya got in his head. So it kind of left him feeling like, you're a dick like your father. Because when he was even younger, he's trying to get his an autograph from Endeavor, but Endeavor was being like a real prick and brushed the kid off, telling him, get out of my way, or you're in my way. And because Shoto ended up, callously saying the exact same thing without realizing. So he had his warped viewpoint on Endeavor and his anybody who's like Sarah blood with him, like, you're all like him. So it leaves these two to kind of fall out of, because they're supposed to be the highest ranking students in their respective classes, but they end up losing the chance to get provision licenses because they end up bickering during a rescue mission, because the next course is like, which is pretty dope. It's probably like one of the best lessons from the the school, where it's like you gotta during disaster efforts, or whether man-made or godlike, or at least like act of God kind of scenarios, or just by man-made disasters. You gotta prioritize rescuing people, getting them out of debris, and the people that come in as the victims, they're actually kind of like kind of actors in a way, but also teachers, and they dock points for any kind of misstep. Like one who's pretend to be a kid, docking Midoriya for like, I forgot what question Midoriya asked, but it isn't the right question. And it's like, he points out like, no, yeah, I remember. It's like, wow, this looks bad. Oh, this looks bad. Is that what you're going to say to a victim at a real life scenario? Which I kind of respect. Yeah, these are kids learning how to be pro heroes. When dealing with disaster, it isn't always about fighting villains. There's disaster, scenarios that you have to consider. Tornadoes, fires, earthquakes, wherever the case may be. Heroes got to be counted on to help with relief effort, and you have to be on point. You got to be on top of your game on this kind of thing. You got to think on your feet a lot of the time. Like, structure damage. Don't just start pulling people out of the debris willy-nilly. Don't just pour water on fire willy-nilly, because fire can be gas made, and that water won't cut it half the time. You probably need to use fire extinguisher type of material. And then Midoriya, he had to be told, like, you didn't even bother to ask, how I'm doing. Is anything broken? That's, should be the first thing you'd be wondering. Blah, et cetera, et cetera. So I really like this moment. But then going back to Midoriya and this, like, the kid with the wind powers, who keeps bowing so freaking hard he busts his head on the concrete. It's kind of funny. But they're trying to fight off Gang Orca, who's pretending to be a villain, because in superhero scenarios, when you try to save people in these disaster things, there will be a chance that villains might try to take advantage of the situation, or they would cause the disaster to, as a distraction as they try to take advantage. You don't know. They have to be able to adapt quickly, which is smart. The developers, the writers behind this, did their thing with this. They played it smart, like they lived the life of a superhero or something like that, because it's very intuitive. But of course, it's kind of like they probably read a bunch of comics and Star Wars, because a lot of Star Wars references in My Hero Academia. They did like some extensive research, and it's like, okay, how would the Justice League handle situations like this, or Superman specifically? And it's like, and just kind of like put one to one, and it's like, here, this is what kind of lessons that they had to do dealing with this kind of scenario. But Gang Ogre and his gang took down Shoto and the other kid because they spent time bickering. The kid ended up apologizing to Shoto, but he still was honest. It's like, I still have ill feelings towards you and your father, but I shouldn't have behaved the way that I did, because that wasn't what a hero should have done. Which Shoto takes as like at least a good step in the right direction. So now they have to work during the summer in order to get that license to kind of make up for it. I love to get a return of that tech girl from the sports festival that she's working with. The shoveler, construction worker looking guy, that looks like a Tonka truck, and she's pretty much like the Q tech person of UA now, and she helped create some new tech gear for Class 1A and other people, and she helps. I love this moment when as Ingenium, Uravdi, and Deku heads towards the lab, it blows up because she's messing around with all this tinkering and everything like that. She'll have a blast with Tony Stark, to be honest with you, or even with like Reed Richards. But it blows up in a cartoonist way, and she falls on top of Midoriya, and of course, Uravdi gets all flustered, like, because they, let's be honest, they do kind of overly sexualize certain characters, like this girl, whereas you see breast heaving on top of Midoriya, and he's just like, ah! And it's just the whole entire thing. That scene is funny, but she ends up creating new leg bracers for Midoriya because he, thanks to All Might, now that he's not active, forced retired essentially, he decides to dedicate all his time on teaching his students. So he's not just, I like this, he's not just with Deku. He's not putting so much of his energy in Deku. He goes to other students to give them advice. He doesn't give them the answers, which is good because like you gotta teach them how to fish so they can eat themselves. You can't do it them. You can't do it for them. So he tells Deku, like, okay, look, you still trying to copy me. You gotta be able to do things on your own. Make this power your own. Don't try to just replicate me. Because yeah, he's such a fanboy. It's like if you gain Superman's powers and you try to do everything what Superman would do, you're probably not going to be that successful with everything. You gotta be able to do things take that power and utilize it in a unique way that's tailor made for you. Perfect example, like Miles Morales in like the first movie. It's like you got Peter Parker's powers, but you're not Peter Parker. And matter of fact, even with like the MCU, Tom Holland Peter Parker, he's trying to like be like Iron Man, but it's like Happy Hogan. It was like you're not Tony Stark. You'll never be Tony Stark. You gotta be yourself. And that's what like Miles had to learn. It's like you gotta do your own thing. Stop trying to be like Peter Parker. You're not Peter Parker. Utilize those powers the way it is tailor-made for Miles Morales. So that's what Midoriya has to learn. Just because you have the powers of All Might doesn't mean you have to do exactly what All Might does. Make it your own. So he figures, okay, my arms need to heal. I can't rely on them like All Might does when he had the powers. So he decides, okay, let's channel that into my legs. But this time I have bracers there. He also got braces on his arms too, but he has braces on his legs, so that way he can be able to jump, because he has some kind of rapid motif with his costume. So he kind of like hops around like a rabbit, utilizing his training with Gran Torino to zip around effortlessly and do kick moves instead of punches. So I was like, that is like, I was impressed with Midoriya's quick thinking like that. So this is tailor made for something for him that All Might and probably never any other the wearers or users of One for All had before. This is specifically Midoriya's thing. So then we go through the final arc where we meet these three other third years. That's we learn Nonillion, which he's a fun character, but he kind of reminds me, and I'm pretty sure, I swear, I bet you, the writers or creators of Nonillion were inspired by the character. You might not know about this, but you can look it up. The Adventures of Tintin. It's pretty much the way he's designed. Kind of reminds me of that character, of these old type of cross country detective, pulp type of stories. And Tintin kind of, is definitely, or at least Nonillion is definitely, his designs definitely took in some inspiration from a character like that. But he's fun. He's a fun character. He has ability to kind of phase through stuff, kind of like Shadowcat in a way. And he's always, wind up naked, when he's trying to pass through stuff. And you see the other characters that each one is weird in their own little right. One girl who's like, don't know anything about boundaries, and it's like getting up people's faces, like asking all these little personal questions and touching on everybody, asking about like Manetta's balls. It's kind of funny. And then this other guy who's just super shy and doesn't handle public speaking all that well. But clearly they are very competent heroes in their own right. But then you get to see a little bit at the end when the League of Villains is trying to recruit some gang members who happen to have some abilities of their own, because they're trying to increase their forces. They're laying low for a while, but a lot of people, especially in the government, is concerned that, and they put the blame on themselves partially because they acknowledged they was too highly reliant or overly reliant or on All Might, because he was kind of like the nuclear deterrent from supervillains. He always kept their actions at a bare minimum, so pretty much every other hero can just pretty much like pick up the pieces. He didn't have to do all that much, but he's basically their big gun. But since now he's pretty much sidelined, they're concerned that all these villains are going to be coming out of the woodwork, getting a lot more brazen. So that's why all these tests is kind of ramping up to an extreme, because they essentially need to get the best of the best cream of the crop of heroes out quickly, so that way they can get their license, and actually, if push comes to shove, they can be able to fend off these guys, because now we got to rely on hundreds of new pro heroes to fulfill the shoes of this one hero. It's essentially like taking Superman off the board, so everybody else, or at least all Kryptonian related Superman family, off the board. Now everybody got to fulfill like the steps, the footsteps of these guys, because there's certain things only Kryptonians can probably be able to handle. This is essentially how I can make a proper comparison. But that is season 3. The fun, like the first arc, like I said, it was kind of like the lackluster one by comparison to the others. But it'll be interesting to see how things carry forward. But let me know what you guys think of season 3. So I'll be getting right into, because up until season 7, which has 42 episodes, 4 through 6 is all 50 episodes. Like, my God, it's gonna be a while before I get to the next season to review that. But as soon as I'm done, I'll be getting right into the review. But in any case, yeah, I have like I'll be getting towards next week. Will be like a new movie review. Sticking with animated films. But yeah, then I'll also be working on the next comic book review, which probably won't be out until February. But also by February at some point I'll be getting started on more chaotic lore videos. But yeah, beyond that, other than that, it's just like, video game streaming like usual. But let me know in the comments below what you think of season 3. Which arc was your favorite? Which characters do you like the most? Etc. Etc. I'm curious to know. But beyond that, I will see you guys later. Take care. Be well. Peace.